My name is Leo Vance. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a freelance data analyst here in Portland, Oregon. Most people who know me would describe me as the quiet type. Methodical, observant, someone who keeps his cards close to his chest. They're not wrong, but what they don't see is the lifetime of training that made me this way. Growing up in a divided household taught me a valuable lesson. Sometimes the best strategy is to watch, wait, and let people reveal their true nature all on their own. My father, Richard, remarried when I was 10. His new wife, Cassandra, brought her 8-year-old son, Nathan, into our home. Suddenly, we were a blended family, a term that sounded warm and harmonious on paper. The reality was anything but. From day one, a silent, unspoken dynamic was established. I was the responsible one, the independent one, the one who didn't need much. Nathan was the baby of the new family, the one who needed constant attention, support, and investment. The pattern started early and it never stopped. When Nathan wanted guitar lessons at age 12, they signed him up that week. When I, at 14, asked about joining the school debate team, an activity that was free, my father clapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're smart enough to figure things out on your own, son." Nathan got new clothes every season. I learned how to make my old ones last. When Nathan struggled with math, they hired a top-tier tutor at $70 an hour. I taught myself calculus from library books. "You've always been so self-sufficient, Leo," Cassandra loved to remind me, her voice dripping with a sweetness that barely concealed the convenience of it all. I never complained. I never threw tantrums. I just observed, adapted, and filed it all away. By the time I was 16, I had learned to expect nothing and prepare for everything. I got a part-time job, saved every penny, and paid my own way through community college before transferring to Portland State University. Nathan, meanwhile, had a college fund of $40,000 waiting for him, courtesy of my dad's careful financial planning for his future. But the final, defining insult came in December 2023. I was 32, established in my career, living in my own apartment. I still went home for the holidays because, despite everything, they were still my family. Nathan, now 25 and drifting between part-time jobs, had been dropping heavy hints about needing a car for months. Christmas morning arrived with the usual pageant of forced family cheer. The tree was perfect. The presents were stacked neatly beneath it. Nathan's pile was, as always, noticeably larger than mine. Then came the big reveal. Dad and Cassandra exchanged one of those meaningful, excited looks. "Nathan," Dad said, pulling out his phone to record the moment, "why don't you check the garage?" Nathan opened the door to find a brand new Toyota Camry sitting there. A giant red bow on the hood, metallic gray, fully loaded. The works. He actually cried. Cassandra cried. Dad beamed with pride. It was a perfect family moment that cost them around $28,000. My turn came last. Dad handed me a small, flimsy envelope with a grin. "Don't say we never give you anything, Leo," he chuckled. Inside was a single Powerball ticket, the $2 kind you buy at a gas station. Stuck to it was a yellow post-it note in Cassandra's loopy handwriting. "Maybe you'll get lucky, huh?" Winky face. The room erupted in laughter. Even Nathan joined in, wiping away his tears of joy. "Oh man, that's perfect," he said. Leo and his lottery ticket versus my new car. They found it hilarious. The responsible, independent older brother getting a gag gift, while the golden child received something substantial and life-changing. I smiled. I even laughed along with them, a hollow sound that didn't reach my eyes. But something cold and hard settled in my chest that morning, something that had been building for 22 years. As I folded that lottery ticket and slipped it into my wallet, I made a mental note. The car versus the lottery ticket. The golden child versus the afterthought. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly have known, is that as a data analyst, I never throw away a data point. 3 months later, in March 2024, I was cleaning out my desk and found that crumpled lottery ticket. On a whim, I decided to check the numbers. Old habits die hard. Always verify your information. The first number matched. Then the second. By the third match, my hands were shaking. By the fifth, I felt a strange sense of calm descend over me. All 6 numbers aligned perfectly with the winning combination from the December 26, 2023 drawing. I had just won $134 million. The first thing I did was absolutely nothing. I sat in my apartment for 3 hours, staring at that ticket, cross-referencing the numbers on my laptop, checking and rechecking every official source. Every source confirmed the same thing. Someone in Portland had won the largest lottery prize in Oregon's history. And that someone was me. The second thing I did was call my lawyer. Not a family friend, but a top corporate attorney I knew professionally. Jessica, I said, I need to set up a blind trust. Immediately. By the following Monday, I had a legal and financial structure that was airtight. The Willamette Valley Trust claimed the prize, with Jessica as the public trustee and me as the completely anonymous beneficiary. After taxes, the lump sum payout came to just over $72 million. I invested the bulk of it, kept a few million liquid, and used the rest to quietly restructure my life. But here's the thing about sudden, extreme wealth: it doesn't change who you are. It just amplifies it. I had spent my life being careful, methodical, and invisible. The money didn't make me flashy. It made me more strategic. I kept my same apartment, drove my same old car, and continued my freelance work. To my family and the world, nothing had changed. I was still responsible, independent Leo. 3 months passed. The story of the mystery lottery winner was all over the local news. My phone finally rang on a Thursday evening in June. It was my dad. "Hey son, how are you doing?" His voice was unusually cheerful. Soon, Cassandra and Nathan joined the call. They were on speaker. They chattered about the lottery winner, about how crazy it was, about what they would do with all that money. They were fishing. They had connected the dots. The ticket they gave me, the Seattle-Portland winner, my quiet financial stability. They were testing the waters. Then came the real reason for the call. "Leo," Nathan said, "I proposed to my girlfriend, Chloe. She said yes." After my congratulations, he launched into a monologue about how expensive weddings are, how they were struggling to put together a budget, and how they were hoping for some family help. "Maybe this weekend you could come over for dinner," my father added. "We could discuss how the family might support Nathan and Chloe." The family, as if I had ever been part of any family financial discussion that didn't end with me being told to handle it myself. "Let me check my calendar and get back to you," I said, my voice perfectly neutral. After I hung up, I opened my laptop and began to draft an email. It was time to present my own data analysis. 2 weeks later, after a series of increasingly unsubtle calls from Nathan and Cassandra, I knew the moment was right. On a Tuesday afternoon, Nathan called me directly. "Look, man, I'm just going to be straight with you," he said. "The venue we want is 15 grand. We're looking at a $50,000 wedding. I was wondering if you could, help us out, like a loan. Maybe 25,000. To him, it was a massive sum. To me, it was now a rounding error. But it was never about the money. "Let me think about it," I said. That evening, I finalized the email I had been drafting for weeks and scheduled it to send the following Monday morning at 9 a.m. sharp to all 3 of their inboxes simultaneously. The subject line read, "Regarding Nathan's wedding request and family financial history." The email was professional, methodical, and devastatingly precise. I began with a chronological review of family financial decisions dating back to our childhood. I included dates, specific amounts, and direct quotes I had recorded in my journals over the years. Not out of malice, but because documenting patterns is what I do. "I want to be clear," the email continued, "that I don't resent these past decisions. You consistently viewed me as self-sufficient and Nathan as someone who required more support. That assessment shaped 2 decades of resource allocation in our family. Then came the turn. Last December, you gave me a lottery ticket as a Christmas gift. You found it amusing. I found it illuminating. As it turns out, that ticket won the $134 million Powerball jackpot. After taxes and legal fees, I now manage approximately $72 million in assets. I let that sink in for a paragraph break. Nathan has asked for a $25,000 loan for his wedding. This represents roughly 0.03% of my current net worth. The answer is no. The next section explained why in cold, hard, logical terms. This decision is not based on the amount. It's based on the principle that patterns, once established, tend to perpetuate themselves. For 22 years, you taught me to expect no help, no safety net, and no consideration. You taught me self-reliance, not as a virtue, but as a necessity. I learned those lessons well. I concluded with crystal clarity. Nathan's wedding is his responsibility, just as my education, my career, and my financial security were mine. I will not be contributing. This decision is final and non-negotiable. As a final touch, I attached a PDF containing scanned copies of the lottery ticket, the winning number announcement, and the official claim documentation. The attachment was labeled, "For verification purposes." I hit send, turned off my phone, and went for a long walk. When I returned 2 hours later, I had 47 missed calls and over 100 text messages. The pattern had finally, irrevocably, been broken. The first phase of their response was a predictable storm of shock, denial, and desperate attempts at damage control. Dad's voicemails were a frantic mix of pleading and demanding. Cassandra's texts were a masterclass in emotional manipulation. Nathan cycled through the entire grief cycle via text message, from disbelief and anger to pathetic bargaining. I didn't respond. I had presented my findings. The analysis was complete. Within a week, Nathan had started a GoFundMe for his wedding, which raised a little over $1,000. The story began to leak out to our extended family, not from me, but from their frantic attempts to spin the narrative. In some versions, I was a heartless monster. In others, I was a tragic hero who had finally stood up for himself. The truth was somewhere in between. 6 months later, Nathan and Chloe had a small, lovely ceremony at a community center. I saw the photos online. They looked happy. I wasn't invited, and I was fine with that. Around the same time, I made my first major life change. I bought a house, not a mansion, but a comfortable home in a quiet neighborhood. I also used a portion of the money to launch the Northwood Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to providing educational scholarships for first-generation college students from blended families. Kids like me who had learned early on that they could only count on themselves. The irony was not lost on me. I was using their joke gift to help other overlooked children in a way my own family never had. Nearly 2 years have passed. My father still sends me birthday cards with generic, hollow messages. Cassandra occasionally likes one of my professional posts on LinkedIn, her version of an olive branch. Nathan and Chloe recently had a baby girl. I know this because I still follow them online, not out of regret, but out of professional curiosity. I'm interested in patterns, and I'm curious to see if this new generation will break the old one. Last month, I received an unexpected email from Nathan. It wasn't asking for money. It was an acknowledgement. "Leo," he wrote, "I realize now that I got advantages you didn't, and I never questioned if that was fair. I'm sorry for that. We assumed you owed us something because we were family, but we never considered what we owed you." It was the most mature thing he had ever written to me. I haven't responded yet. I'm not sure if I will. Some data requires further analysis. But I know this for certain. That $2 lottery ticket taught me a lesson worth far more than $134 million. It taught me that justice doesn't always have to look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like building something new instead of tearing something old down. And sometimes, if you are very, very patient, justice is simply watching people finally be forced to analyze the consequences of their own choices. This story is a powerful lesson in family dynamics and self-worth. Who do you think was wrong here, him or her? Or was it the whole family? Let us know in the comments. Comment one word that describes how this story made you feel. If the story touched you, please like and subscribe to Tales Flicks. Your like helps these untold stories reach someone who might need to hear they're not alone. Don't miss our next story, subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.